Every day that we wake up is another day we see the world from our lens. And just like each wave impacts the wave in front of it, so it is with our worldview. How we see life is influenced by the things we learned and experienced. But sometimes that keeps us from seeing our world on fire. Can't breathe, can't breathe, can't breathe, can't breathe. Can't breathe, can't breathe. Why don't you get off of me? Can't breathe, can't breathe, can't breathe, can't breathe. Can't breathe, can't breathe. Why don't you get off of me?
Can't breathe, can't breathe, can't breathe.
All right, Code R.E.D. Code R.E.D is a code that's used whenever there's an emergency or whenever there's a fire that needs to be extinguished. So in terms of the United States, I believe the United States has been in Code R.E.D in terms of racial injustice since the moment it was created, right? At least until 1619. So right now, racial injustice is in everyone's face. It's something that you can't run from. It's everywhere right now. So I came up with this idea, this concept of Code R.E.D because some people are going to be in the midst of this and they will continue to be ignorant, continue to be dismissive people. But then you have people that's going to be like, I want to learn more. What can I do to be against this thing, to extinguish this? So Code R.E.D is a process, a stage that I kind of thought about, conceptualized for people like that's wondering how they can grow on this process to eradicate racism, to eradicate sexism and things like that. Even if those things never truly happen, we want to try. We want to spend our efforts towards that, and we for sure don't want to be perpetuating those things, right? So this is what Code R.E.D is for. It's not just for white people. It's for everyone, and I'm looking forward to engaging in that part of the dialogue. So yeah, Code R.E.D. Let's go. The first step is to reflect, which is the interpersonal process that requires that you be mindful and in tune for when your biases come up in situations. It demands that you confront your bias. This stuff is deep-seated, y'all, and it impacts how you behave and how you see the world. One thing that may hinder you from doing it is a concept called white fragility. If you don't know what white fragility is by now, look it up. Robin DiAngelo, her work on it is phenomenal. However, I do suggest that all people can experience some form of fragility because of the idea of living in a post-racial world. Come on, we know we don't live in no world like that. This is the idea that race no longer matters when in fact it does. So when you embrace this colorblind or some form of the ideology, this I don't see color or color doesn't matter, it actually inhibits you from seeing when color does matter, which then keeps you from being active against racial injustice. Check out my work on that. So while you're reflecting, it is, how do I see myself? And do my actions live up to that? And that's what you have to reflect on when it comes to justice. And it's hard to face that reality sometimes. The second step is to engage. Engage in the literature. Read books, watch documentaries, listen to podcasts and talks. Talk to other people that don't look like you. Engage is to put in the action and not remain silent in the sidelines, trying to stay in the background. We know people that's like that. Engage with the stories. Engage in the muck of it all, right? Go be with people that don't look like you. Be uncomfortable and engage in that in healthy ways that are not harmful to those that don't look like you. being in situations while being uncomfortable. Even if you make a mistake and they run away from you, that's okay. Keep engaging. And the last step is my favorite: disrupt. You have to disrupt the system and push back, whether it be in hard conversations, voting, protest, marching, boycotting, teaching. It's about taking risks and finding your mode of activism and disrupt. And no matter what, keep on fighting. And that's Code R.E.D. Reflect, engage, and disrupt.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Twyman here. And we launched this series to take you on a journey to discover and uncover your biases. We all have them, but we rarely face them. We're talking conscious, subconscious, overt, covert. And in the words of the late, great James Baldwin, not everything faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Code R.E.D. The other concept that you'll hear us go through is the concept of windows and mirrors. And think of the mirror as this opportunity to be self-reflective or engage in some self-evaluation to really get to see yourself from another perspective or another lens. I'll be honest, it's not always comfortable. Sometimes it's painful. Don't look away. Engage and disrupt. And then the window. Think of the window as this opportunity to see another perspective, to see another opinion, worldview, or reality, right? Another way to see the world. That's not always comfortable either. Sometimes it's painful. Engage and disrupt. We're bringing the hard conversations right to you. We have challenges for everybody, not just white people. Code R.E.D.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is your boy, Brother Wash, and Grant Twyman coming to you with the docu-series Code R.E.D. Now, Grant, I'm proud of you, man. Thank you so much for being a part of this project with me. So the people, they heard what I got to say about Code R.E.D. I want to hear a little bit more from you about what Code R.E.D is and why you think it's important now.
Yeah, for sure. So first, I just want to say, man, thanks for having me on the docu-series, right? Not going to call it a podcast, you know what I'm saying? We're going to good, correct that. But man, I'm pumped to be here, pumped to just chop it up with you, man. It's been years since we've been face to face.
Yeah, man.
I mean, we're on completely different coasts, right? And here we are, right? Flew across the continent, you know what I mean, to have a conversation. But man, it's exciting to dialogue about some of the hard issues, right? Some of the hard topics, and just learn from each other, sharpen each other, as we're growing up in this world and raising kids in this world. I think
Black kids.
Exactly right. Which that distinction's important.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't get tired of making that distinction because it's relevant, it's important. So, man, I think talking about the hard issues, talking about controversial topics, it's necessary, right? Yeah. For emotional, mental, spiritual, physical development, like to be able to engage with people who have a different perspective, a different worldview, I think is healthy and normal and natural and necessary for growth. Yeah. So I'm excited about the Code R.E.D docuseries, man.
Yeah. So right now we have so much going on in the world, right? With the pandemic going on globally. The U.S. is like, it feels like the only country that's not taking it seriously.
Yeah.
But even within the U.S., there's this heightened sense of racial tension and everything going on with the media. Everything's on social media. People are making their voices, at least social media voices, loud and clear and everything. So why do you think, again, like something like Code R.E.D is so important?
Yeah, so, man, I remember I have the thing about growing up, right? And you're taught certain things, you come into believing certain things, and a lot of times, especially in this Western culture, right, where we're hyper focused on either or rather than both and, right? You would take a different perspective as not just criticism of your belief or idea, but you see it as like this critique to you as a person, right? And so what's interesting in the times that we're in is even with that, right? Like there's a realm where there's a critique of ideas, and then there's a very real realm of I'm a person, right? And this is how I live, and this is my experience. So you don't get to choose whether you're right or wrong about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is me, you know? And so when we talk about racial justice, like, there's a realm of idea, and there's a realm of healthy argument and dialogue, but there's another realm of, we're talking about humanity.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, bro.
And we don't get to debate that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, we do it.
exactly right.
Or we have to.
Right, exactly right. Or else, right? And I'll say, or else, I'll say, or worse, people reduce it to this political category of conversation, which I think is a cheap shot to, again, make it more of a agree or disagree when really we're talking about good versus evil, right? Because we're people, right, in this struggle. So
yeah, I absolutely hate the whole "we're all humans" argument, right? Because we're humans, the animals are animals. But what separates humanity from the animals is our intellect, right? Our social context. Like, animals ain't rolling up, talking to each other, smoking blunts and junk. Man, being like, "Oh, we're going to stratify this group of lions," and so our humanity, the experience of humanity, is more than just we're just humans. Right? It gets deeper than that. So when you try to say, "Hey, we're just humans," you're trying to eliminate or disregard the things that make me human, that separate the humans from the animals. Nah, bro. Yeah, we might got blood and stuff going on, but at the end of the day, the stuff that I live every day is what makes me a human. That's different,
for sure,
for you and other people.
Listen, 100% right. And like, I wish like that could be said on so many platforms, right? And to a degree, I think if we be honest, that's obvious, right? That, like, when you talk about the human race in terms of biology, like, okay, yes, we're all humans.
Simple.
Right, done, right? Like, I'm glad we're there, because if you be honest, we weren't always there. You know what I mean? And there were folks making cases for greater and lesser versions of humans, right? Which I'm glad we're not there, right? The Human Genome Project thankfully dismissed that a couple of decades ago, which it shouldn't even took all of that.
Listen,
but so we're all humans, yes, but what we're talking about has to deal with the sociology, right, of our existence now, right? And socially, there are a lot of differences. There are a lot of variations. The diversity is great on many levels, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the sociology of race, not the biology of race. Which, again, I think if we're being honest, that's obvious.
Yeah, and not just with race, but with gender and even other sociological contexts, like sexual orientation and things like that, ableness, poverty, just how so many things have been stratified. And for those that don't know what stratified means, in simple terms, it's how resources and access to resources are distributed and allocated to different groups based off of certain characteristics. So, the U.S. has been historically stratified by race, gender, sexual orientation, class, religion, right? So we're going to be like code-ridden a lot of those things, right? How it reflect, engage, and disrupt, because the thing is that we all want to have this unified, this together utopia type of thing, or most of us do, I say, but there's this wall that keeps us from getting over there, and many people don't want to face that wall or do what it takes to break down that wall, to disrupt the heck out of that wall, man.
No, absolutely, right. And so that first R, reflect, I often think about COVID, right, and the effects of COVID. One of the things that COVID did was slow us down, slow everybody down. Again, especially in Western culture, and we're not trying to beat up Western culture, but that's our context, right? So we could talk about that the most, because it's our context. That's very busy, right? There are so many distractions, right? It's very easy to ignore what's happening around you, and keep you from realizing what's actually going on in your neighborhood, in your community, in your city, in your state, your region, your
And
country,
yourself.
in yourself, right? Like we can distract ourselves really easily, and COVID, in a lot of ways, took away those distractions, right, and allowed us to slow down and reflect. Didn't force us, right, because some people still didn't, but for sure gave us an opportunity to slow down and reflect. And so I think that first aspect of Code R.E.D is huge, right? Being able to think about what you think about.
Yeah. How do you know? How do you know what you know?
Yeah.
Right. And one thing that you and I were talking about earlier is the most important part of reflection is taking ownership of your stuff, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Your responsibility in it. And just really facing yourself. Like, again, it goes back to that self-concept.
Yeah.
How I see myself. And then weighing up to, do I really live that out though? Like, am I really pursuing that? And am I really as good as I say that I am? In order to do that though, it takes real self-reflection, not just because of things that happen to me, but who am I outside of that? And really taking that responsibility on. So that's tough, Grant. It's tough for me to do, right? Not just within the race stuff, but just in all aspects of life. It's tough for me to do, but it's something that we have to do if we're going to live up to being a good human. The good humans do that, right?
Sure. Right. And that's one of the important components of engaging, right, in other conversation, in other perspectives, in other worldviews. It's one of the reasons why we did this docuseries, right, to give folks an opportunity to we talk about mirrors and windows, right, to see another lens, right, on what's happening, right, in the state of things. That engage piece, right, is probably gets me the most excited because it leaves no room for people to sit on the sidelines, right? Like, so what we're saying is get in the game, right? There's no room to say it's not for me, right? It's no room to say I don't know where to start, right? Because Code R.E.D takes away your excuses, and it says get in the game.
And it's 2020, bro. Like, it's literally everywhere, and access to engage is everywhere, right? Especially for those not in the marginalized groups that we're talking about. Like those outside of the marginalized groups are a privileged group, not privileged across the board, but you have access to things to learn. And if you're not a part of the group, that means you have a lot to learn.
For sure.
Right. And it's not that you have to come to complete understanding and stuff. I am a cis, heterosexual black male. I'm never going to understand what it's like to be attracted to a man. I don't need to understand that to be empathetic though.
Exactly right. To seek understanding, right? To put yourself in a position one realize like your area of privilege there, right? That you don't experience what they do, but you get to learn about it. You know what I mean? Like that's a level of privilege that we should approach with humility, right? As we're seeking to be empathetic.
Like I never had to think about coming out.
But
I hear arguments. Well, how come do you have a coming out parade? Well, heterosexual people don't have a bro. You missing the point, man.
Exactly right.
But for me, this is why engaging is tough. Is hot for you, and it's like it gives people not an excuse to say, hey, it's not for me. But disruption also does that, right? Finding your mode of disruption. It's like for me, it is locked out, right? Activist hoodie, sweatpants, going to conferences and stuff like that. Dabbing people up, but not right now because it's COVID. Right? I ain't touching nobody.
The elbow up.
I ain't even doing that.
Where your mask at, man? Put your mask on right now.
Yo, man, but it's finding your mode. And there's multiple modes. There's modes that are risky, right, where it might cost you your job. It may cost you imprisonment, right? It may cost you your life. And then there's other low risk ones where it might be, social media or just engaging with a family member that may be racist or just kind of blind to a lot of things. So it is just finding your mode, right? I don't code switch in my profession on purpose, right? Because we could talk, we probably want to talk a lot about like English and language and stuff like that, but I choose to deliberately and intentionally not code switch in my spaces.
Listen, that whole like idea of like finding your mode of disruption again takes away your excuses. There's no room to be on the sidelines. We have to be in the game. And so you bring up code switching, right? I love the topic. It's not something I talk about all the time, but when the topic comes up, it's intriguing to me, right? And here's the thing with the Code R.E.D docuseries is everybody's going to be challenged, right? Even us, as we sit here and dialogue and chop it up, right, and talk about the issues, some of the issues. I'll be honest, right? Put my cards on the table. Like, the idea of not code switching is challenging to me, right? Because I've said it before, and if you know me, I am a professional code switcher. Listen, like, I have maybe not a PhD, right? You know what I mean? But my code switch card is on point.
Yeah.
And what's funny is nobody taught me, right? And code switching is such an interesting topic, man. Because on one hand, right, folks code switch to fit in certain spaces, right? Yeah. And a lot of times it's to survive. Yeah. Exactly right. A lot of times it's to survive. Acting this way gets me this response, right, and this effect. And a lot of times that's feeding somebody's family. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, but the danger in code switching, right, especially in the U.S., right, especially in this culture, when you code switch to white dominant culture, it has this like weird thing that causes you to look down and despise other cultures, right? And when I'm in North Africa, right, there's a level of code switching I do to fit in, right? But I don't remember looking down on my American culture, right, or other cultures, right? Like, it was just a slight small adjustment that you do to fit in whatever particular scenario that I was in, right? Either in Central America, South America, North Africa, but here, code switching does something different to you, right? Reminds me of the boys' work on double consciousness, right? Like, there's this thing about the U.S., right? That white dominant culture that code switches.
The value of whiteness. I tell people there's not a problem with being white, right? The problem is the value of whiteness, and that whiteness is valued, right? So with code switching, not everyone, because there is definitely a difference between navigating a system and disrupting a system. Like, just because you're navigating well doesn't mean you're disrupting it, right? Just because you're disrupting it, it means you're not necessarily navigating it. You might have to find like a mixture between the two, and finding your disruptive pockets or whatever. To me, I'm just all disruptive. I feel like I done already got in. I'm all disruptive. You know what I'm saying? But that's not for everyone, right? That I don't recommend that for everybody. I do believe I get away with that as a black man, right? So for me, it is that double consciousness, the value of whiteness. Not everyone that code switches will necessarily look down or disregard blackness or anything non-white, but it comes with that risk, right?
Sure.
It becomes, because you're valuing this whiteness and being able to be in this space, and now it's like, yo, I made it,
right?
Because you're one of the good ones, now.
And so just be like me, right? And I'm telling you, anytime that we lift up something as ideal or normal, right? We enter into this danger zone, right? And the world's on fire. So, nah, man, I'm so pumped. To just chop it up about the issues. Code R.E.D.
Code R.E.D. All right, everybody. This has been Code R.E.D. This has been Brother Wash.
Grant Twyman.
And I just want to let y'all know that every episode is not going to be like this. We're going to come at you with different modes, different ways to bring you into the conversation, to get you to start reflecting, engaging, and finding your mode of disruption. Until next time, engage in Code R.E.D.
Code R.E.D.
Can't breathe, can't breathe, can't breathe, can't breathe, can't breathe, can't breathe. Why don't you get off of me? Can't breathe, can't breathe, can't breathe, can't breathe, can't breathe, can't breathe. Why don't you get off of me?
Can't breathe, can't breathe.